Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the January 15th, 2015 Post Falls Urban Renewal Commission meeting. Director Lean, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Chairman Baltzell.
Here.
Commissioner Babich.
Here.
Karstensen.
Here.
Commissioner Rehrman spoke to me. She had a traffic accident, and she didn't think that she would be able to make it this morning.
Okay.
Crosby.
Here.
Coles.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Karstensen, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. And for a change, we do have some items under ceremonies, appointments, and announcements for today. Oftentimes we don't, but we do. The very first thing that I want to do is to announce the selection of our new commissioner to represent Deborah Wunderlich, and who resigned as of the end of December. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about this person before we invite him up to the dais. He's lived in Kootenai County for the past 21 years and served with as Kootenai County Deputy Treasurer and then Treasurer for a total of 18 years. He served prior to that as an aviator in the United States Marine Corps. He's active in Post Falls community and Rotary and community volunteers, the Lions Club, and the Chamber of Commerce. And it's my great pleasure to introduce you Mr. Tom Balzon, who will be our new commissioner. Tom, would you join us? You want to come around there? And I think we have an empty seat here somewhere. Welcome, Paula. Welcome, and congratulations.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very much. Today.
Okay. Please note that Paula is here and hopefully okay?
Yep.
Good, good. Okay, the next order of business is election of officers. We do that in January of each year. We'll be electing a chairman, a vice chairman, and a treasurer. The first one that we will do is the position of chairman. Are there any nominations for the position of chairman for this commission?
I nominate Jerry Baltzell.
I'll
A
second.
second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, nominations are closed. What kind of a vote do we need for this?
A roll call vote on that?
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Babich.
Aye.
Karstensen.
Aye.
Rehrman.
Aye.
Crosby.
Aye.
Coles.
Aye.
Malzahn.
Aye.
Does Jerry get to vote for himself?
He doesn't need to, no.
The
Right.
vote shows all in favor.
Okay, thank you very much, I guess, anyway. Appreciate your confidence in that. Now we will elect a vice chairman. Are there any nominations for vice chairman?
Commissioner, I nominate Commissioner Babich as vice chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Are there any other nominations for vice chairman? There being no other nominations, nominations are closed. Roll call vote, please.
Chairman Baltzell.
Aye.
Babich. Well, Karstensen.
Aye.
Rehrman.
Aye.
Crosby.
Aye.
Coles.
Aye.
And Malzahn.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Welcome again.
Thank you, I think.
And now the position of treasurer. Nominations are open for the position of treasurer. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Lynn Crosby as treasurer.
And Crosby?
A second.
In a second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations for the position of treasurer? If there are no other nominations, they're now closed. Roll call vote, please.
Baltzell.
Aye.
Babich.
Aye.
Karstensen.
Aye.
Rehrman.
Aye.
Coles.
Aye.
And Malzahn.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, and welcome to the
Thank you, I think.
to the group, so to speak, in that regard. We have a lot of things going on this year. We've had a lot going on this past year with Post Falls Urban Renewal, a lot of projects going on that are really important to our community, and I think this group here has done an excellent job and will continue to do so. And I appreciate your support and the opportunity to work with all of you in getting these projects done for our community. So, at this time, I'd like to ask any of the commissioners if they have any conflicts to disclose regarding anything on our agenda this morning. I hear none, so we'll move on to the consent calendar. Director Lean.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Baltzell. On the consent calendar this morning, we have as the first item the December 18th minutes. Second item is the minutes from the meeting on January 7th. That was a special meeting. I'm sorry. And item B is the minutes from December 30. I'm a little out of order there. Item D is the payables for the month totaling $622,360.01. The payables include a pay request number 6 for Cameron Riley on the City Center Revitalization Project for $254,214.21. Welch Comer, the engineer, for $12,250. On those two, we will be submitting a draw request on our loan at Community First Bank for the total of those two. Pay request number 6 is also included for Wadsworth on the Greens Ferry Overpass project for $263,315.74, and payment to JUB Engineering for $52,844.77. We also have for affirmation 2 bills, 2 checks that we wrote about a week ago. One for $22 for recording a memorandum of lease. We needed to get that check done so we could record that memorandum of lease at the county. And also a check for $3,850.04 payable to Santorini LLC for the remaining period in December and the month of January on the lease on that building over there as part of the Greens Ferry project. Next item on your consent calendar, item E, is the bank activity report. That shows total funds in all accounts of $5,310,968.52, and accrued interest for the month of $996.05. The draw request from Community First, as I mentioned, will be for a total of $266,464.21. Item F is the financial report as of December 31st, 2014, and those are printed from our in-house QuickBooks accounting system, and they will be posted to our website. Item G is the order of approval for payment for Point Partners LLC in the amount of $91,554.40. As you recall, that was discussed in the workshop, and that reimburses Point Partners for the landscape costs on a section of road over in the Center Point District. Your approval of the consent calendar will authorize the transfer of $996.05 accrued interest to the general fund and transfer to the INB checking account of $622,360.01 for general payables. Chairman Baltzell, I would answer any questions.
Are there any questions on the consent calendar from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, on the unpaid bills, there's a bill for Knutson Chevrolet, $19,984 for signage. Can you enlighten me on that?
Yes, as part of the Greens Ferry Overpass project on the Knutson property, one of the requirements is to move the large GM sign out there. It's right in the place where the ramp facility will be. The sign is owned by General Motors. It's on the Knutson property. The sign company, the total cost on moving that sign is about $20-some thousand. we're going to have to pay that cost anyway. In any event, that is a given cost. The sign company has asked for a 50% upfront payment on moving that sign so they can get started as soon as possible.
The overall cost is 21,000,
Um,
and you're asking for 19 as half?
No, I don't know if I have that number with me.
Perhaps I misheard you. This is half of the cost of moving a sign.
Isn't there 3 signs to move?
There are 3 signs.
Yeah.
3 signs, okay. And they're all on Knutson property, they're not in the right-of-way, but they would be impacted visibly by the
They will-
visibility.
They will have, they're in the right-of-way, they're in the portion of right-of-way that we are acquiring.
I see, okay.
And in the section where we will have the physical construction of the ramp, the roadway. So we have no choice but to move those signs.
Okay, so this is the
And it's-
50% payment to get the sign company to start moving those signs. I
Correct.
understand. Thank you.
Yes.
The other question I had, just a clarification. I'm assuming, since there's nothing on the balance sheet as a liability, that we're not yet drawing down on the Washington Trust loan for the Greens Ferry project, that we're simply paying those out of funds that we had reserved for that?
Yes, sir, that is correct. We anticipate drawing that down, starting to draw on that maybe in March. Their draw requests to date, the original projection on their draws was quite a bit more than what we have experienced on actual draws. So we're actually, it's to our benefit that we have not had to draw down on that loan yet because we don't pay interest yet. But we do anticipate starting to draw on that loan probably in March.
And my final question has to do with the budget versus actual. We are $10,000 over budget for the first 3 months of the year on legal fees, and only have $12,775 remaining for the balance of the year. And there's a much less, but an equally large overrun in office supplies and travel and meetings. Should there be a budget adjustment to get the budget back in conformance, or are you anticipating that legal costs will dramatically reduce in the next 9 months?
Typically, what we have done in the last year or so, mostly because of the Greens Ferry Overpass construction project, a lot of those legal fees relate to that project, and we are posting them here in legal fees, but the amount that accrues to the project will be transferred to a project expense,
Back as an offset.
and therefore bring our budget
All right, the
number
offset.
in line.
The offset.
Yes.
Over and above what you budgeted. I
That's correct.
understand. Okay. Thank you.
As it relates to the very last part of your comment or
Sure.
question having to do with, don't we do a budget adjustment? We'll look at that at mid-year and determine whether or not it's necessary to make a budget adjustment. I don't anticipate that we will, but we'll do that at mid-year as opposed to month by month.
Oh, no, I just, at the end of the third, this is the end of our essential first quarter, and I just looked at that versus.
Okay, very good. Any other questions on the consent calendar? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'd move the approval of the consent calendar and the transfer of the accrued interest.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Baltzell,
Aye.
Babbage.
Aye.
Carstensen.
Aye.
Rehrman,
Aye.
Coles,
Aye.
Crosby,
Aye.
and Malzahn.
Aye.
Motion carried. Before we go any further, I just want to comment and welcome Len on as our treasurer for this coming year, but I also want to thank Larry Carstensen for the work he's done this past year as our treasurer. There's a lot of extra time and effort that goes into that, and I appreciate it very much. Larry will continue to be a part of our project team on the Greens Ferry Overpass because he has the historical knowledge over the past year, and that's something I don't want to disrupt at this time, so I'm assuming you'll continue with that, in that role. So I appreciate your work, Larry. Committee updates, finance and policy, Larry.
Policy, we're going to complete the policy update. We got it scheduled for January 26th from 9 to noon. We went through, I don't know, 2/3 of the policies already, We want to complete and then bring the updated change back to the commission for their approval. So 9 to noon on the 26th for policies.
Okay, and then that will be brought forth to the workshop in February.
Well, hopefully,
If
we can
it's-
have it all
if
put
works
together,
then,
yeah.
Okay, great. Any questions of that for Commissioner Karstensen? District review.
I don't have anything to update since the last meeting. We are planning, I believe, we're still planning to have a representative from Expo at the workshop in February, which will be the district review will meet following the regular URA workshop at the
Okay.
chamber, right?
And that's on Expo.
Yes, and that's February 11th.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Communications, property, and personnel. Commissioner Coles? Okay. Very good. At this time, it's an opportunity for citizen comments. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission regarding an agency-related issue. Comments related to future public hearings should be held for that public hearing. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to us at this time? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. Greens Ferry Overpass report. Director Lean.
Yes, Chairman Baltzell, we have total cost to date, expenses to date on that project of $2,986,858.37. That does include legal fees of $69,289, miscellaneous costs of $108,000, the owner's rep $844,000, and the design build team $1,870,000, and that's rounded. The project is going along fairly well. Construction is in process on the south side of the freeway where they've done the excavation and the spread footings, and they've erected the 5 wire cages for the piers, for the columns. They're working in the median, doing the excavation and spread footings there for the piers. We'll have similar columns there that we do on the south side. And then on the north side, they're in excavation and doing the footers for the abutment. That'll be a little bit different style of construction, different from the piers that are in the middle and on the south side. And as we acquire the right-of-way, we will continue with the construction in those other areas. The right-of-way acquisition, we have closed on with contracts and deeds on 3 of the parcels, small parcels, granted, but that is progress. We have received information back from the right-of-way acquisition team that a couple of the other parcel owners are ready to sign the documents, and so, things are progressing. We are, we have a couple of challenges in the right-of-way acquisition. That's not to be unexpected, and we're dealing with those appropriately.
Okay, very good. Any questions on that report? Okay, let's move on to new business, the fiscal year 2014 audit presentation.
Chairman, I would like to, I was going to invite Annie Van Valen up here, but she's already here. She's at the podium. She's going to do our annual presentation of the audit for the commission. And Annie, if you'd state your name and location and everything, go forward.
My name's Annie Van Valen, and I work for Anderson Brothers CPAs in Post Falls, Idaho. And we'll be presenting the financial reports for fiscal year September 30th, 2014. And this year, I believe it was recommended last year at the presentation to provide something for the projector. So as I'm speaking, I will try to bring something up to the projector, but if you have any questions, please kind of stop me so I make sure to get that for you to review. For government audits, and I don't know that enough, but for government audits, there's 2 sets of financial statements. You have your government-wide financial statements, which is a full accrual basis, and then you have the fund financial statements, which is a modified accrual basis of accounting. So that's where it's a little bit different with governments versus, like a business, for example. So we're going to go through that just to see what those differences are. There aren't any significant differences for the urban renewal. It's just a couple items, so I think it'll be pretty simple to see those reconciliations between each other. But that's the main difference for governments. It's kind of hard to follow sometimes. To begin, and I'll try to reference page numbers as we go on, but pages 1 and 2, this is the independent auditor's report. Oh, right. Okay. And so this page 1 and 2, this is saying that it is our opinion that the financial statements are materially stated, and we did not identify any material misstatements that were not adjusted if we proposed any. Pages 3 through 8, this is the management discussion and analysis. This is prepared by the district and included in the audited financial statements. This provides a lot more financial highlights, comparisons, a little more information than just the basic financial statements that are presented. So it provides the reader just additional information that they could gather about the district or about the agency. And then page 9, this is the statement of net assets. So the district or the agency has total assets $7,009,344. And then total liabilities, $956,445, most of that being accounts payable just at that month end. And then total net position, $6,052,899.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Good morning, Ms. Mathalan. We show property tax receivable of $245,376 on this statement in that position and on the balance sheet. And I asked for a schedule of that. And I also ask why we show it completely collectible, 100% collectible. And I understand that property taxes are a superior lien even to a mortgage. But when I looked at the schedule that you provided, which I appreciate, about 56% of those taxes were due for 2010 or years prior to 2010, which means they're 4 to 5 years delinquent. So my question is, rather than showing these as assets or completely as assets, since there is a finite life to our ability to collect tax increment. And when our districts close, we no longer have the right to collect those, even if they're due for past years. Should we not, recognizing that a portion of this may be uncollectible at the time we close the district, at least uncollectible to us, certainly not to the underlying taxing districts, shouldn't we reserve or show a liability for uncollectible or potentially uncollectible?
Yeah, so with property taxes, and again, like I had mentioned, there are two sets of financial statements. On, for example, page 11, the balance sheet side of it, you have deferred revenues, which is in the receivables. The deferred revenues are expected to be collected, but in future years have not been collected, and we have a 60-day period. So the difference between the receivable and the deferred property taxes is the 60-day collection that occurred, collected in October and November. And so as far as the financial statements on the fund financial statement, you haven't recognized that revenue of that receivable in that property tax. It is sitting in a liability. Now, as for government-wide financial statements, the full accrual, and I understand that, a potential like allowance or that sort of thing, but really it has been on, again, the government-wide financial statement considered collectible and recognized as income as it's been recorded by the county. But the offset would be, let's say a district closes and you're no longer receiving those receivables, you write them off. Well, at the same time, you're also not going to be paying that out in that tax increment because you did not receive it. And that's just due to how the agency is set up. And so that's where it's kind of a net effect to zero, because if you had collected it, you would have been paying it out to that district in the first place. Does that make sense? So that's
Yes.
where it's
No,
kind of
it does.
an
I
urban
understand.
renewal.
Sure. Yeah, no, my concern
There.
was simply that we acknowledge that there is some potential that we wouldn't collect those revenues.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's happened in the past where, and I have an example too to show you with Riverbend, that, you know, those that weren't collected are actually going to be collected to the other taxing agencies now that it's closed in our agency here.
Thank you.
I just wonder, based on what his question was, if on the statement of net position under assets, if maybe that shouldn't have been showed, or at least some portion of it in other assets as opposed to current assets, which should be collectible within 1 year, I believe.
Yeah, and it's just really hard to say, to determine current and
Just
non-current,
further-
but that is something that, because these financial statements are the agencies, that's something to consider, classifying that. It's just very hard because something could sell tomorrow and the property taxes all are collected. So that's where it is, but I do agree that it could be reviewed as, current, non-current.
Okay, thank you. Press on.
Yes. All right, so just moving over to page 10. This is the statement of activities, again, a government-wide financial statement, full accrual. And so the change in net position is negative 744,417. And again, that's going to be on the full accrual basis. And a lot of this has to do with those accounts payable just at the year end. And we have discussed the balance sheet, but I will show this. And balance sheet, this presentation is a little bit different than what you saw on page 9. And then another difference too is for this fiscal year, for government auditing standards, they have the deferred inflows of resources. It's more of a presentation thing than a difference in like the accounting. But as you can see right in the middle, we have deferred inflow of resources. This used to be just included in liabilities as deferred property tax revenue, but they have now segregated certain items that are required, and now a new segment, I guess. You have your assets, your liabilities, deferred inflows of resources, and then your fund balances or fund equity. And so also a difference, and it was a couple years ago, GASB 54 came into effect, and this would identify or classify your fund equity of, are there certain items that are non-spendable? Are there restrictions? Are there assignments, commitments, or just unassigned as far as the fund equity, what's left so far at that fiscal year end? And so this identifies those different areas, provides a little more accountability, I think, to the governments if, everything's just sitting in unassigned, for example. What are the uses or expectations for those for the future? As for the agency, we have prepaid expenses that have already been spent. So as far as fund equity, that's a non-spendable item of $1,917. Restricted, this is due to debt covenants, and that is $1,300,269. That is the restricted amount that Washington Trust has put on the committed loan that has not been drawn on yet, but restricted, still the same. And then committed, this is property taxes that have been received on their behalf, just has not been paid out. And that's just due to a timing thing of when those are paid out. And that's $2,263. And then assignments, and this is for the district, it's been assigned to be paid out, but not to a specific proponent, for example. And so East Post Falls District, that's $4,495,302. And then City Center District, and that's $404,964. And then the unassigned is the difference. The difference just because of fiscal year end, because of the high payables, because they haven't been paid out, it hadn't been adjusted into those assignments yet. And so that's why you see a negative unassigned, but it's, again, more of a timing thing, just what was going on with the agency at that September 30th year end. And then there's a reconciliation just right here at the bottom to identify and reconcile the differences between page 11 here, the balance sheet, and page 9. And majority of those differences is going to be the deferred revenues that we mentioned, the property taxes, the timing difference between the fund accounting level and the government-wide. So moving on to page 12, this is statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Again, the main difference is going to be the property tax revenues as far as between page 12 and page 10. And so you have total revenues of $4,102,450. Total expenditures, $4,740,810, with a change in fund balance, negative $638,360. And then, like I just had mentioned, this page 13 is the reconciliation between pages 12 and pages 10. And those differences really showing the changes in property taxes and then a little bit of depreciation on a capital asset that was capitalized a few years ago. And then pages 14 through 21, this is the notes, the financial statements. This provides a little more detail on the accounting policies, some breakouts on cash, receivables, commitments to those proponents. Any questions on those, I'd be happy to go through them, but it's just a lot more information there. And then moving on to page 22, this is the schedule of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, but the budget to actual comparison. And for state statutes, they require that you do not exceed your budgeted expenditures. For budgeted expenditures for the agency, it was $10,386,909, and total spent was $4,740,810. So obviously under budget, so you're compliant with the state statutes regarding that requirement. And then page 23, this is the notes to the budget. Just again, like the notes to the financial statements, identifying a little more information of what provides, or just more information regarding the schedule on budgets. And then although our audit is to audit the financial statements, during our procedures, if we identify certain deficiencies or material weaknesses, this is something we communicate obviously to management, to you guys, and then also in our audit report. And so this is where the independent auditors report on internal control. We're not identifying specifically, like going after all the different processes that the agency does, but during our audit procedures, if we do identify something, this is where we communicate it. As for September 30th, 2014, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in this report. We did not identify any non-compliance during our testing as well, and so that's what pages 24 and 25 state.
I ask you what threshold you're using for material weakness?
Material weakness, it would be some, there's a lot of different, it's more of a judgment thing, there's a lot of different things, but as far as if it was something that was materially misstated to our opinion and not adjusted, it would probably be something that would be over about $15,000. And it would be a discussion too of why and that sort of thing. It'd also be an area where, let's say there was complete error and it was just never identified until maybe the audit procedures where we thought this is really going to misstate if it hadn't even exceeded that threshold, but we considered it very, very significant or a big risk factor, even potentially for fraud and illegal acts, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions along the way?
And then this is something just more informational to provide, but the Kootenai County is offering now the receivables and just other urban renewal information just online publicly. And so I just want to give you an example of the information here that they provide. And this is, again, provided online at kcgov.us, but then you can identify as of September 30th. It's very hard to read, and it's every district for the Post Falls Urban Renewal, but this is something that is provided publicly online that you guys could get this information typically in June, and well, it's not available until after the fiscal year end, but.
And it's posted once a year?
Actually, this is the first year that they provide it online.
Okay.
I think this is actually one of the last pages in our packet.
I believe so. It was something
Yeah.
I had sent, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to.
No, it's very
provide
helpful.
that.
Thank you.
Now, are there any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? I think you've done an excellent job in reviewing our financial picture, and I appreciate that feedback, and enjoyed working with you, and we'll look forward to doing that again in the future.
All right.
Thank you
Well,
very
thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Chairman Baltzell, I would like to compliment Annie on her work, the work in the office, and her responsiveness to any questions that we had, providing information back to us, and her relationship with Diane, our executive assistant. They worked very well together and very smooth. We had no problems at all in this audit process. And I appreciate the effort on both Annie's part and Diane and how they worked together to do this.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good, Tom. Now I'd like to entertain a motion with a roll call vote to accept the 2014 audit as presented.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, any other discussion? If not, let's go to a roll call vote, please.
Chairman Baltzell,
Aye.
Babbage,
Aye.
Karstensen,
Aye.
Rehrman,
Aye.
Crosby,
Aye.
Coles,
Aye.
and Malzahn.
Okay, motion carried. All right, thank you. And now it's time to go into our executive session according to Idaho Code Section 67-23451F, and also under Section 67-23451C, having to do with acquisition of real property and litigation items that need to be identified and discussed in executive session.
Chairman, I move that we enter into executive session pursuant to those citations to discuss with counsel the acquisition of real property for a period of not to exceed 60 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Coles. Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Chairman Baltzell,
Aye.
Babbage,
Aye.
Karstensen,
Aye.
Rehrman,
Aye.
Crosby,
Aye.
Coles,
Aye.
and Malzahn.
Aye.
Okay, and we'll be starting the executive session at 20 minutes to 8 o'clock. It should be 7:40. Okay, we are back in session for the Urban Renewal Agency Commission meeting. And going back to the agenda, following the executive session would be staff report and updates. Director Lean.
I think we've adequately covered pretty much everything I would want to discuss. I would make one note, though, that on a sad note, a friend of the agency and the city, Gary Young, passed away this last weekend. He was formerly with the city and worked with us quite a bit on the city center revitalization project. He, with Vertus Landscape Architecture, worked through all of our improvements on that project, and it was kind of a sad loss. Our condolences go out to his wife, Sandy, and the family.
Yeah, very good. And it's important to note that he was a landscape architect that did the design work for Spokane Street improvements. So thank you very much. Okay, any commissioner comments? No, it doesn't look like we have any. I just want to close by saying how much I appreciate the support and hard work of all of the commissioners during this past year, and also of our staff, Tom and Diane and our attorney Pete, and all of you folks in the back room that keep the electronics going and the systems going, and appreciate your work. We look forward to working with all of you this coming year, and thank you for your time. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Can we do that voice vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're adjourned.